Hello and welcome to Archvelder's Hacks with Archvelder and his amazing hacks. This is the comprehensive leveling exploit guide to WoW Classic. Be aware that some methods contained within this guide might be considered unsound. First, here's a basic crash course in the use of evasion mechanics, which are highly exploitable in the classic version of the game. There are a number of ways to take advantage of evasion mechanics. World of Warcraft Classic is a world of two-dimensional gameplay superimposed on a three-dimensional world. NPCs and players obey fundamentally different rules of physics. NPCs can't jump at all. This means that if a player can move out of melee range, then NPC attackers that only use melee attacks will, after a few seconds, evade. This means they will drop combat and return to their initial spawn point. This allows the player to eat, use bandages, or otherwise restore their health to the maximum. By using the terrain to their advantage in this manner, players can escape combat when close to death. This is similar to the Rogue's Vanish ability, but the power of this technique is not limited to defensive uses. You can pull more enemies and in general behave much more aggressively when leveling, in the sure knowledge that you can't be killed. Exploiting evasion mechanics is much faster and more effective than simply running out of range. Running out of range takes you further away from the target area you were questing in, and also often causes you to aggro wandering or patrolling mobs, often leading to death and a much larger time penalty. Finding evasion points is not particularly difficult. It is simply any location which can be reached only by jumping and is inaccessible to melee NPC attackers. It varies greatly on the terrain, but you want to be approximately the height of one torrent above the ground, with no direct pathing to that location. Every time you enter a new area you plan to grind or quest in, scout out the zone for opportunities, test them, and practice the jumps necessary a few times. Usually it is very simple, but you do need to be able to perform them under pressure at low HP, and bear in mind you'll often be affected by movement slowing abilities when escaping. Now, incredibly, it is actually possible to do the same thing in reverse, and trap an NPC in an object as I'm demonstrating here with this cart. Look at the red circle under the cart here. That's where the skeletal flare that was just attacking my gnome is, trapped by pathing errors inside the object. Trapped NPCs create a kind of invisible evasion field around themselves, which, if you drag other NPCs into the area, causes them in turn to evade, allowing the player to escape combat at will without any acrobatics, simply by moving in and out of the field. Observe how these NPCs evade as soon as I get close to the skeletal flare trapped in the tree to your left. Evasion mechanics can also be exploited to level weapon skill very quickly. This is very easily done with ranged weapons. As before, find an object that you can jump on where you can't be reached by NPC melee attacks, where two or more NPCs can be reached by your ranged weapon that you want to level. Use your ranged weapon on each of the NPCs in turn, as I'm demonstrating here. You may wonder why you don't just focus on one NPC. That's because after the first attack, the NPC will evade, and attacks against evading NPCs do not increase weapon skill. By attacking multiple targets, you give each individual mob time to evade, drop combat, and become attackable again. Finally, to exploit the leveling of melee weapon skill is a little more tricky. You need a very specific location like this one where an NPC spawns under an evasion point. The NPC evades attacks from where I'm standing, but if I move directly over the NPC, I can attack directly. See the numbers in white over the NPC's head. And my weapon skill will now go up slowly. Now, whenever either my health or the NPC's health gets too low, I can just move out of range and the NPC will reset. And that will restore the NPC's health, and I can eat or bandage myself or otherwise heal myself up to maximum health. Using this method, you can level melee weapon skill continuously without having to move between mobs, and have costly and unprofitable downtime. The following trick comes from the amazing Chic Runner, whose channel I've linked to in the description below. Google "WoW character stuck, unable to move" and follow the link to the self-service page. This will give you the option to automatically teleport your character to a home location, and that will be Sentinel Hill Westfall for the Alliance and Orgrimmar for the Horde. Now, you're supposed to use this when your character is stuck in a wall or something, but Blizzard have no way of checking that, so effectively you can just use this as a free teleport. Now, this is supposed to work every 8 hours, but in fact it is very easy to get around this 8-hour limit. Now, I'm not going to say exactly how to do that, because it would be too easy for Blizzard to fix. The full method is on my Patreon, but if that doesn't appeal, you should be able to work it out quite easily by studying this video closely and a bit of trial and error. Now, aside from just improving your leveling speed, and it will literally knock hours and hours off your leveling time, you can also use this method to obtain limited supply items from special vendors, and that can make a ton of gold. I'll cover that in a future video. This trick also completely eliminates the need for the Wetlands run or anything like it. A level 1 Night Elf can transport themselves instantly to Westfall. It is important to understand that in Classic Warcraft, most of your experience comes from mob grinding. For this reason, it is highly desirable to find locations where mobs respawn instantly, or use methods which cause NPCs to instantly respawn, as this will dramatically increase your experience per hour. The following locations and methods are not meant to be a completely comprehensive guide. They are designed to get you started and to show you what to look for. The first location is here in Elwyn Forest, on the border with Duskwood. Now, there's a dock down here, and next to it is an adjoining house. Inside is a Defias Dockmaster. When you aggro the Defias Dockmaster, he will spawn 3 bodyguards. Now, the Dockmaster spawns every 15 seconds, which is one of the fastest respawn times in the game for a named NPC. If you are standing within the hut, for some reason, the Dockmaster will not respawn, so stand outside the doorway. And you can see here exactly how long it takes for the Dockmaster to respawn. Provided you can kill these mobs efficiently, this is the fastest way to level at this bracket. Also be aware that there's another 3 Defias NPCs that patrol around the dock and respawn periodically. It's very easy to forget about that and get overwhelmed whilst doing this farm on autopilot. The second location is in nearby Westfall, to the northwest of Sentinel Hill. These Defias mobs spawn continuously, no matter how many you kill. When you clear this area, you get a mob hyperspawning somewhere within the localized zone. Most of these hyperspawn locations, whether by accident or design, have a less obvious spawn point where mobs tend to spawn just out of view. It is important to note that if you can't see a mob, that means it spawned in this secret location. There's an area like this in almost every hyperspawn zone, which leads you to think Blizzard adds these just out of view spawn points in order to hide the existence of the hyperspawn from players. In this particular location, the out of view point is up the rise overlooking Sentinel Hill. Moving to Kalimdor, this location to the south of Oberdeen has instantly spawning furbolgs. This is one of the smallest of these hyperspawn areas. The parameters of the hyperspawn area are clearly delineated by the edges of the camp. The more players that are farming here, the faster the furbolgs respawn. Altha's Mill in Redridge has a collection of beasts which spawn continuously within the mill's vicinity. Again, the parameters of the hyperspawn area are set by the boundaries of Altha's Mill itself. Nearby, and also in Redridge Mountains, on the border between Stoneridge Falls and Renders Valley, are Black Rock Orcs which hyperspawn. This is a good location for all classes to grind experience, but almost perfect for rogues, as it is very easy to sneak up on the orcs. And because they're humanoids, you can build up a decent amount of money in the process by pickpocketing. I'd highly recommend binding your pickpocket ability to your opener in a macro, as many other guides suggest. By the way, if there's a relevant quest associated with the instant respawn area of any of these farms, I'd suggest getting the quest but never turning it in, so you can use the add-on questy, which will give you the spawn location of every mob in the vicinity. The next locations are in the Blasted Lands. There's two areas where these rock elementals hyperspawn within a visible region. The first is in the west of the Blasted Lands, below the mountains which border Loch Mandan. The other is in the due south of the zone. Finally, there's my favourite location, which is just south of the centre of the map. You can farm the trogs in this camp, and they endlessly hyperspawn. This is a really good location to grind up gold for your mount at level 40, while simultaneously levelling up. There's a really handy vendor here just a short distance to the north. Now watch out for this hidden respawn location, which is very easy to miss. On the subject of grinding gold for a mount, it is worth noting an opportunity in Arathi Highlands. There are 3 circles of binding, populated by different types of elementals in Arathi Highlands. Each elemental has a chance of dropping a charm. This charm is designed to instantly kill another type of elemental at one of the other circles on use, depending on its designation. Blizzard clearly intended elementals killed with the charm to be neither lootable nor award XP. However, I found a glitch whereby if you did even 1 damage before using the charm, you got full XP from the kill, and for a short while my patrons could level up super fast. Blizzard unfortunately fixed this. However, what you can still do is just 1 damage, use the charm, and then you can loot them all. All things being equal, this is going to be a much faster farm than any alternative, though I would recommend playing off-peak, especially on a PvP realm, as this area can be quite competitive. Also, you'll want to check the auction house before proceeding to assess the value of items like enchanted and elemental water, which drop from these mobs, and compare that with the price of the charms themselves. If they are fetching a premium price on the auction house, then just sell them directly, don't use them. Now, there's a trick to actually force respawns which doesn't depend on a specific location, but a specific mob. Caster type mobs which have either a Void Walker or Succubus type minion can be exploited. You simply kill the minion, drop combat, and then the caster will respawn their minion. The minion only awards half XP, but they are usually very easy to kill. If you have some means of dropping combat quickly, you can do this continuously, though I prefer to use this trick when I've depleted most of the mobs in the area and need some way to keep my XP up whilst I'm waiting for them to respawn. Since WoW Classic has been released, there's been controversy about players who group together and are boosted by a higher level player, specifically in dungeons. Some claim that the amount of XP is overpowered and inconsistent with vanilla. I was curious about this and discovered the following. First, at very low level, XP gains from kills involving a high level player you have grouped with are almost non-existent. At level 1, a kill with a high level player yields 1 to 2 XP. By level 8, things become a little more interesting as XP gradually becomes more equitably shared between the players. But I wanted to try this at level 10 in the Dead Mines, the idea being that the high level boosting player will need lots of mobs to kill. Now, my level 10 mage was getting 20 XP rested from normal mobs the higher level player killed. Now, that's not particularly interesting because the low level player gets just under 200 XP rested for a same level kill solo. So the high level player has to kill normal level mobs 10 times as fast as the low level player in order for this to be worthwhile. Now that is possible, but it is not really worth the hassle. However, things get more interesting with elite mobs. My level 10 mage received 54 XP rested for an elite mob killed by the high level player, which takes more or less the same time as a normal mob to kill for a high level character. So if you can kill 4 times as many elite mobs with a high level character than a low level character can kill solo, then it is worthwhile doing this. Remember, the high level character doesn't have to eat or drink between fights. Bosses award the same XP to the low level character grouped with a high level as the low level would receive from a solo kill of a normal mob in their bracket. So my conclusion is this: grouping your leveling character with a high level character, either by multi-boxing or just getting a friend to help, can be an effective strategy, but it requires a plentiful and replenishable supply of elite mobs to be worthwhile. Now finally, one of the best methods to increase your leveling speed is to just increase your speed. Now there's a sophisticated method to do this, involving lag manipulation. By slowing the speed of your internet connection, your character can temporarily enter offline mode. In this state, any speed buffs active on the character don't run down till you re-enter online mode. You can't do this for longer than 8 seconds or you will disconnect. So what this means is that by using lag, you can extend any speed buff by 8 seconds, as I'm showing with my rogue sprint ability here. So you don't have to pull out your modem cable, you can use an application like Lag 7, which I'll link to below. Now, if you found any of this video interesting, you are going to love my upcoming retail leveling guide. Currently, leveling is more broken in retail than it has ever been, so you may want to subscribe to this channel now to avoid missing out. And if you can't wait for that, you may want to consider joining my Patreon, where every secret I uncover gets uploaded the second I discover it, including content that's just too hot for YouTube. Thanks for watching. This has been Archvalder.